See most of those boxes? Most of those are books, TV shows, and movies. Now, why do I have that many boxes, you might ask? Well, it's because I'm moving tomorrow. But by the time this video comes out, I have been moved successfully and without any slip-ups. However, that's not why I'm doing this video, but I'm doing this video just to do a quick batch review of the series that I have recently finished in order from least favorite to favorite series. They are all trilogies, and yes, they are all very good. And I'm sorry, I'm very delusional. It's just been a long week that I look like I now have a halo. Okay, without further ado, here we go. So series number 4 that I've recently read, the trilogy, is probably my least favorite of this batch review, is called The Passage by Justin Cronin. Now this is a very interesting series because it is a pandemic series, but it's not a zombie series per se. Basically what happens is, the premise of it is, the government tries to weaponize this virus that has vampiric capabilities. It gives vampiric capabilities to its host, and as the government tries to weaponize that virus, it infects 12 scientists and murderers, actually 13 scientists and murderers, into human superpowered weapons. And what they do is, they are the worst of humanity, and they infect everyone with this virus and cause them to turn into proto-vampire zombies. Justin Cronin is an incredible writer. He is a wonderful, wonderful storyteller, and this series juggles multiple POV characters throughout the tenure of the 3 books. It's a fun read. It's a slow read at points. It's a slow burn, but it has moments of unstoppable action and incredible character development. But I don't recommend reading this series, even if you have the time, because it does not have a satisfying payoff at the end of The City of Mirrors, which is book 3. While the ending itself, the epilogue, is very good, some of the characters don't get the necessary send-off that they deserve, which is really disappointing for such an incredible storyteller. And the main villain has several chapters where he is monologuing his story and his motivations, and it is true art. It is fabulous, but how it ultimately pays off is a bit of a dud. And again, I do like the ending. I do like, what I mean by the ending is I mean the epilogue. The last 3 chapters plus the epilogue are really good. They leave a lot of mysteries open, which I really enjoy. A lot of characters do have close-ended stories, while some other characters have some open-ended stories that we never really know what their ultimate fates were. And that's kind of fun because it leaves the audience wondering if there might be spin-offs or what actually happened to some of these characters, which truly is a joy. So that was The Passage. Overall, probably 7.8 out of 10. If I'm averaging, probably 7.8 out of 10. Still a good read. Don't recommend you read it if you get impatient with series very easily. So that's series 1. Next series is the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. Yes. Talk about an innovative writer. N.K. Jemisin is definitely one of those writers. She imagined a world where the earth itself is broken. People can learn how to manipulate the energy coming from the earth itself to change the world around them. And every couple hundred years or so, a seismic event triggers what's known as a fifth season, where volcanic activity and seismic activity trigger clouds and toxic gas that spread across the world and engulf the world in basically what becomes a nuclear winter. The Origines, these magic users, are the only ones that can mitigate the effects of it, but they're also feared throughout the world because they have this incredible ability. Also, there's a motorcycle driving by on Georgia 400. What the heck? So I loved this series. I thought it was wonderful. It was the way Jemisin sets up her characters, her protagonists, especially in book 1, the 5th season, is incredible. You don't know what's actually happening until subtle hints are dropped, and it's just really cool because I've never seen a writer do that before. She switches back and forth between third person, first person, and second person, limited, omniscient perspectives throughout all 3 books. The weakest of the 3 was probably the second one, the Obelisk Gate. It's still pretty good. It's still really good, don't get me wrong, but it was a little harder to get through because some of the concepts she's explaining in the book are a little bit more difficult to wrap your head around. However, it's fantastic. And then by the time we get to the Stone Sky, the conclusion of the saga, she's not holding any punches back. I mean, this is narrative storytelling at its finest. And again, she's switching between all types of perspective and viewpoints in this book. She starts off the book in first person, she ends the book in first person, but then the other perspectives from the other POV characters are in second and third person style of writing. I forgot the name. I was expecting this book to do something that I thought the story was going for, but instead it did do something a little predictable at the end, which I was like, okay, I understand it, but at the same time, the ideas brought forth in this book were so compelling. It's a mixture of societal oppression and dysfunction that is paralleled not only with cosmic forces, quite literally, and all of that is juxtaposed and paralleled with the dysfunctional relationship between a mother and her daughter. And all in all, it's a fantastic book. I loved this series. So easily an 8.7 out of 10. I think you should read it because it has great character development. It has, a wonderful style of writing that I think is really, really fresh and innovative, and it brings a new, interesting approach to sci-fi and fantasy as the genre expands and adapts to this modern age. So I recommend you read the 5th season / the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. So series number 2 that I recommend, also a trilogy, is called The Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. And this one I loved. This is an absolute masterclass in storytelling. Yes, I might be hiding. Hello. Okay, bye. This series is technically an urban fantasy crime drama series, but it has magic, it has warring families, it has economics and business and politics. But what makes it great is the characters in this series are similar to how George R. R. Martin writes his characters in A Song of Ice and Fire. They're morally complex, the so-called heroes make questionable villainous choices, while the villains, on the other hand, make sometimes heroic choices and sometimes selfless choices, which is really interesting. This series truly is not what you would expect it to be. You would expect, oh, they're starting off in this fantastical world, there's magic, it's going to build up to some cosmic event. But no, that story is told in interludes. Instead, Fond du Lis focuses on the human drama in these warring clans on this island based on interpersonal relationships and the exploitation of the resource known as jade, which actually gives these people known as greenbones their power. And greenbones basically can harness the power of jade. And jade is what they call a bioenergetic material that gives people superhuman abilities, superhuman strength, perception, awareness, and all kinds of really cool things. They can enhance their weapons with it, but yet it's at the same time being exploited to being sent all over the world so that some less than altruistic clans can basically control it and run the world. But at the same time, the primary antagonist of this series is one of the most human, one of the most relatable characters you will ever read in a series. And in a way, she's right about her motivations. She wants to protect her island, protect her people, but yet how she's doing it is very manipulative and ambitious, and is not ultimately for altruistic ends. It is for her own gain. But at the same time, I don't want to ruin it, because these books truly are special. I loved reading them, and I'm holding up Jade Legacy, which is the third and final book in the trilogy, because it was my favorite one. Truly, I mean, it's a slower burn, and it takes place over several decades, but at the same time, the moments that you get with the characters are so profound, and you see how much they've grown, you see what's actually motivating them, you see how the story's going to end, and it really does come full circle. So I love this series. Highly recommend it. So 9 out of 10. You should read this series if you love complex characters, humanized villains, and a world that actually feels like it can be lived in and is also very diverse. This is an Asian-inspired world. It's different, and I love that. So you should read The Greenbone Saga by Fond du Lis. So that was series number 2. And last but not least this will probably go down as one of my favorite series ever. I could not put it down. It was hard to fathom where this series was going, but it was so fast-paced. The character development was unexpected, and it inverted a lot of the tropes of the hero's journey to take the story to a much darker end. And this series is the Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang. And I finished this series probably 9 months ago or so. But, I mean, truly masterclass in storytelling and character growth. Very grim, dark, very, 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 very scary at points. But a magic system that is innovative and really compelling. It is a soft magic system, but the way it's presented makes it feel very real. This series introduces a lot of really relevant issues in our society and universally as human beings, such as the horrors of war, the controlling and manipulation of higher classes above less privileged classes. What do you do with power? How do you respond when power is presented to you? Do you use it for your own gain? Do you use it for the good of other people? or to use it totally to fulfill your own ambitions and try to gain the whole world in the process. So if you love series that take the hero's journey and kind of twist it and make some really key changes to it, this series is for you. Because basically what it's about is this girl, her name is Rin. She's from a province, a southern province in the world of Nikon, the nation of Nikon. It's based off early 20th century China. She is basically going to be sold off to become a prostitute by her aunt, and she's like, I'm not doing that. Her only way to avoid doing that is to take this extremely prestigious test to get into the nation's top military academy. And the only way she can even go is if she becomes the number one test taker in her class. This is not a spoiler because it's literally in the premise of the books. She aces the test and gets in the top military academy in Nikon and goes there. And then as she goes there, she's scorned by her classmates, but her ambition keeps her alive. And she does some truly like jaw-dropping things to stay in this school. But Rin eventually learns that she can harness the power of gods by connecting with them. And she basically becomes what is known as a shaman. And from there, she gets involved in a war from foreign powers trying to take over her homeland and eradicate her people. And so she goes on this journey of lusting for power and looking to protect her homeland. And that's not just in this book, it's in all three books: The Poppy War, The Dragon Republic, and The Burning God, all of which are just masterclasses in character development. So I highly recommend this series. My biggest complaint is that it wasn't longer and the world didn't feel as developed as it could have been. R.F. Kuang, even though she's a relatively new writer, she has a incredible aptitude for writing well fleshed out characters, intriguing moral quandaries, and a world that is just brutal to read about, but yet still holds some wonder and mystery at the end of the series. And if you're in for a darker ending, this series is for you. I highly recommend it. And I give it a 9.5 out of 10. Like, I could not get enough of this series. I wanted more. All that being said, recapping, my least favorite series of this batch review was The Passage trilogy by Justin Cronin. Still good. Don't recommend it if you're not into slow burning books with not a lot of payoff at the very end. Series number 3, The Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I do recommend this series. The character development is spot on. The themes explored in the books are very relevant, but also it presents a very innovative style of storytelling, which is A+. Second, The Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. Also, you should read this series because the characters are top-notch, the world building is supreme, and you truly don't know who's a villain and who's a hero throughout the entire series. It's really great writing. And then number 1, of course, is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. If you want a dark, brutal world based on some of our world's most brutal conflicts, such as the Sino-Japanese War in the 20th century and the Communist Revolution in mid-20th century China, The Poppy War is for you. It does not hold any punches. And the character development is a twist on the hero's journey, which is really fun and really refreshing and gives us one of the best inverted hero journeys arcs that I've ever seen. Stick with it. It's great. You guys are awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more. And in the meantime, remember,
Driver picks the music.
Shotgun shuts.